Alright guys, let's go ahead and read those entries now. So, the very first thing I'll do, even before we start discussing how we'll read the entries, is I want to come to my activity main. And finally, after all this time of having this placeholder, I want to get rid of it. So let's remove our home text view, and then we'll add a recycler view. So I'll just search for it in this bar, and I'll drag it into my design. We'll call this entry list, and back in main activity, I'll just go ahead and initialize it. Recycler view, oh no, let's call it entry list, and in my own create, entry list is equals to find view by id r.id.entry list. Yours may need to bring this into the Gradle file. It may need to sync once you bring this in, but that's totally fine. It'll bring up a dialog box asking you if you want to bring in the library for the recycler view. Just go ahead and click OK and continue just as I've done. Alright, so that done, let us now move on to writing the code. Firebase provides a very neat and very efficient way of reading lists from a library. They make use of a recycler view, and there's a library that you can bring into your project. This one, the Firebase-UI for real-time database, and it allows you to just easily get your data and put it directly into a model. However, having tested this on my own, having written some code, I saw that there were some issues with the current release. So it in most cases it won't work. It'll give you a crash even before the app gets installed on your phone. So we won't use this, and I'll keep an eye out for whether they fix that issue and perhaps update the application. But we can just use the regular recycler view for now. It will still work just fine. So what do we need to do to make use of that? Well, first of all, we need a model class. So we've been dealing with entries, these diary entries. This application, we can say, is used to create diary entries and read those same entries that have been created. So following the principles of programming, we should create a model class that can hold an entry. So let's do that right now. Let's say new Java class. Remember, let me cancel this first. Do not create the class from the Java folder itself, but right click the package that contains your main activity, etc. So right click that, new Java class, and call it entry. So what makes up an entry? Well, so far we've dealt with 3 strings, and that's the title, the body, and the image URL. And then also we can make a final one for the ID, like so. And then we've dealt with one long data type for the time, and that's all we have. If we take a look at our console here and our database, we see that in entries, these are the 5 things. We can say 5 things that we have: an ID, a body, an image URL, the time, and the title. Those 4 things. And you'll notice that I maintained the exact same namings, except of course for the ID, which did not have a name. But for the rest, I used the exact same thing: title, body, image URL with an underscore. So everything stays the same. That's because I intend to cast this directly into the class. I'll show you what that means. Alright, so those are our 5 variables, and now I'm going to create my constructor. So hold down Alt and Insert, constructor, select all of them except for ID. So to begin with, we do not need ID. And then I'm going to just type the next one, public entry. So there's our empty constructor. Very important to have a constructor that doesn't have any variables. Okay, and now getters and setters. So once again, Alt and Insert, select getter and setter, and select all of them. Alright, so there's my class, already done, very simple. And now we can move on to some design work. So once we open the app, we now have to consider, how do we want our users to see their entries in the list? What do we want them to actually look at? So we need to design a custom layout for each individual entry. So to do this, let's go to resources, let's go to layout, we right click that, and we say new layout resource file. And I'm going to call it single entry, because this is how each single entry will appear on the list. And I will put the root element as a relative layout. And I'll say OK. I'll design this from the text side, and the very first thing that I'll do is I don't want each element to take up the entire screen. So I'll change the height, and we'll experiment with this, but to begin with, I'm going to try 250 dp. And as you can see, it shrinks to that size. Now for the widgets, we'll start with an image view. Width will be match parent, height will also be match parent, ID, image, suppose I'll say entry image, and then finally I'll put scale type as center crop, so that there's no empty white space at the edge, because people will definitely have images of different sizes. Alright, next we'll have a text view. Width is match parent, and height I will put as 90 dp. We'll give it an ID. ID will just be text. I'll put the color as white, so hash and 123 I'll give it a default text just so that we can see what we're working with. And then I'll put layout align parent bottom and put that as true. And finally I will put gravity as center. So the align parent bottom true, what it's done, as you can see, it's brought it to the bottom of our relative layout. And for gravity center, it will take the text to the center, but of course we can't see that because it's white on white. So let's give it a background then. And the background will be, for now, input BG. And as you can see, there it is. The sample text is right in the middle. And actually that reminds me, I haven't done text size. So text size, let's put that as 30 dp. Good. I'm not going to use this background though. I would like to use a gradient background. It's a good opportunity to learn a new technique in design. So let's go to our drawable. Let's select input BG. I'm going to hold down Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V to copy it. So it will tell me to change the name, and I'll change it to gradient BG. Okay, so what we'll do with this is get rid of everything in the middle and change this back to a selector. And get rid of this shape for now. And inside our selector we will have an item, and inside the item we will have a shape. And the shape will have a gradient. So this gradient will have the start color of black, so there's our black, and then it will have the end color of white. Oh, sorry, I'm doing black again. End color of white. Its type will be linear. And let me close there. And one more thing I will add is the angle. So we want this going from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top rather. So angle should be 90. There we go. Okay, now something worth learning. I'm going to make a comment here just to demonstrate. As you may know, colors in Android, just the way we've been doing them, follow the pattern of the hash as we have here, and then a value for red, a value for blue, sorry, for green, and a value for blue, RGB. So here we have red being 0, green being 0, and blue also being 0. So if you put nothing, rather 0 for all those colors, you get black. And then here we have red being the highest intensity, FF, green being the highest intensity, FF, blue being the highest intensity, FF again. And if you put all those high intensities together, you get white. So that's how colors work. But there's another element we can add. We can add an A. So it will be A RGB. And this A stands for alpha. Alpha is essentially the transparency of our colors. So what I want to achieve is I want the sample text, rather its background, to be transparent so you can see the image in the background. And how we'll achieve this is by adding 2 more digits, 2 more hexadecimal digits. And for the black we will add E6, and for the white we will add 80. So I encourage you to go online and find out for yourself just how much the level of transparencies that the hexadecimal numbers correspond to. We'll see how this looks when we run it, but for your own knowledge, you can just go Google hexadecimal alpha and see what you get. Alright, that's enough of that. So let's now go back to single entry, and we can say, instead of input BG, gradient BG, there it is. By the way, feel free to choose whatever color you want. Let's go back. If, for example, you wanted the color primary, values, colors, and take that. You can just leave the E6 and replace that with the color primary, and it would give you this. Still transparent, but now it's that nice blue color that we created some time ago. It's up to you. Okay, so that's it for the layout. Now let's go back to our main activity. Close others. So the next thing we need to create is an adapter class. So I'm going to go to the bottom. I'll just create it inside our main activity. No need to create a whole other class. We simply say class entry adapter extends recycler view dot adapter, and within pointy brackets we say entry adapter dot view holder. So what goes into the pointy brackets is a special class called a view holder that you also have to create separate from the entry adapter. By writing entry adapter dot view holder, I'm essentially saying that this view holder can be found within as an inner class within the entry adapter. Of course, I'll get an error because I haven't made it yet, but no problem, I'll do that. Okay, so class entry adapter must be abstract or implement on create view, etc. That is all fine. We will take it step by step. The first thing we need is a list of entries, and we'll call it entries. Next, we need to create a constructor for this class. So public entry adapter, and it takes in the very same thing. I'll even copy, and we do this, and we simply say this dot entries is equals to entries. Okay. Immediate next thing, I'll just go ahead and create this view holder class. So we say class view holder, and this time we extend recycler view dot view holder, and we implement view dot on click listener. So this will make it clickable. So within the view holder, we simply initialize the main task of the view holder is to initialize what we created in this layout. And all we created was an image view and a text view. So simply we say image view, and I'll call it image, text view, text. Alright, so this also needs a constructor, so public view holder, and it takes in a view. So within this constructor, we can now initialize what we just created. First, of course, we must call the superclass, and it's going to take in this view, and then we can say image is equals to view dot find view by id, har.id dot image, entry image, sorry. I'll duplicate, and I will turn this to text, and this also to text. Just quickly confirm. So yes, entry, image, and text, those are my IDs. Alright, good. One final thing I'll do is I will say view dot set on click listener to this. So this line of code will allow the list view to be clickable. But as you can see, we have an error because we actually have to make the method on click so that we can tell it what to do when it's clicked. So really quick, we can just start typing on click, press enter, there it is, and for now we can just throw a toast. And I will simply say clicked. Okay, that's it for the view holder. Very simple, just initialize. The main thing really is initializing whatever widgets you have in your custom layout, and optionally you can create an on-click listener by saying implements on-click listener. Alright, next thing, we keep on working with our entry adapter. So now we need to override this method it's talking about on create view holder, but actually there are three in total. There's the on create view holder and two others that we will see. So all we do is we can make some space and we can hold Control and O, and this will give us the list of methods we can override. So we need on bind view holder, we need on create view holder, and finally we need get item count. Those three. And we can say okay. Let's see what this error is now. Okay, it's still telling me I need to implement on bind view holder. I have it though. Let me try once again. I'll delete that. And let's see if the thing itself will do it. Implement methods and bind view holder. Yeah, it's worked now. So we'll start with get item count because it's the easiest. It's returning 0 now, but all it needs to do is return entries dot size. That's all it wants. It just wants to see how many entries it's dealing with. Okay, now we can go to on create view holder, and what we do here is we create a view. So view is equals to layout inflator dot from parent dot get context. So parent was passed in through through the parameters. So we say parent.getContext, and then we inflate. So .inflate, and we throw in what we just created, the r.layout.singleEntry. The next argument will be the parent once again, and then finally we say false for attached to root. That's it. And here, instead of returning null, we return a new view holder, and we throw in that view. Alright, that's it. 2 lines, and we're done with onCreate view. And then on bind view holder. So on bind view holder, we actually tell the adapter what should we do with our image and what should we do with our text. So do we set the, how do we can set the text, we can set the image, etc. And we'll start with that image. So we will say entry is equals to entries dot get position. So what this does is it creates a new entry object, and that entry object is from the list, from this list, and the particular one we're dealing with is the one that's at this position that was passed in through the parameters. Okay, and then we can say glide. Oh, I haven't brought in the library, my apologies. So to deal with the images and put them into our image views, we're going to use a library called glide. So glide is a very handy library that we can use to deal with images, especially images that are accessed through a network. So we can go to our browser, open a new tab, and say Android glide. Here's the GitHub library, and we just go down to usage. So in usage we find this implementation, and that's what we want to grab. What I will do though is I will paste this into my Gradle file. So go down here, go down to build.gradle, the one with the module app, and make yourself some space. And you can pause the video and write out this. In fact, I'll just include it in the description so you can copy and paste it. But this is what we need. So sync. And once it's synced, we can go back to our main activity and now make use of it. So we say glide, there it is, dot width, context, dot load, and then we say entry dot get image URL, and then dot into holder dot image. Simple as that, and it is quite a good looking line of code, if I must say. It's a very elegant line of code. You say glide, you tell it the context you're using, what to load, where to load it. Very simple, very straightforward. I like it a lot. Another library like this is Picasso. Just in case you're looking for alternatives, it's also very good at this same task. You can go ahead and take a look at that if you're interested. Alright, moving on. We've set the image, now let's set the text, and the text very simply will say holder.text.setText to entry.title. Get title rather. But here's the thing, we haven't done any validation on what the user is bringing in, so this could be blank. So what we can do is, instead of entry.getTitle, we could say entry string, so it throws an error. But above here we can say if entry.getTitle.length is equal to 0. In other words, if they didn't give us a title, then entry string, oh sorry, I didn't initialize, rather declare string entry string is equal to an empty string to begin with. So if entry.getTitle.length is 0, then entry string is equal to entry.getBody. So if they didn't give us a title, we'll use their body. If they didn't give us the body, then it can be blank, because at that point there's nothing we can do. Another thing though, the body may be very long. They can write as much as we want. We actually made the edit text a little large just to accommodate that. So we can do yet another if statement. If entry.getBody dot length is greater than, let's say, 20, maybe that's even a bit long, let's say 12, then entry string is equals to, or rather I can just take this, and then here we say substring dot substring, and we begin at 0 and we end at 12. So give me a substring of the body beginning at the very first character, ending at the 12th character, so that we don't have too much, and then we simply append dot 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 to show that it continues. They are still saying something, right? So that's what we'll do for that. Oops. And then we can set the text as we've done to entry string. Yeah, that's very good. All right, so that's it. That's it for our adapter. To recap though, because this on its own is something worth knowing, when you're creating an adapter, you simply need, we can say 5 important elements. You start with your constructor. You create your view holder class. And finally, you override your 3 main, let's call them methods. Or perhaps I should say major, because this is Java and main method means something special. So your 3 major methods. Yeah, those are the main things you have to do. But that's it for the entry adapter. Let's now go back up to main activity and make use of this. Let's collapse that. So in the main activity, we've already initialized our entry list. Now let's declare and initialize our entry adapter. Call it adapter. And beneath this we can say adapter is equals to new entry adapter, and we throw in the entry list, entries. Of course we'll get an error, so we need to create a list of entries called entries. We initialize that here, and we say entries is equal to new array list. Good. And here we can say entry list, our recycler view, and we can set a layout manager, and it will be a new linear layout manager. You can throw in the context, and then below everything we simply say entry list dot set adapter. Okay, good. So that's dealing with all the Java side of things. We can stop at that point, since this has gotten a little bit long, and we can now deal with the Firebase side of things in the next video.